I guess I must have alarmed you turning up like
If
that.
you touch me, I'll more than alarm you.
That won't be necessary. Your report, very detailed. Just for me, it wasn't very entertaining.
It wasn't meant to be.
When I write about people, I try to entertain the reader.
Venestrom wasn't entertained much.
Your boss, Ormansky, now he tells me you only do jobs that interest you, so I suppose I should be flattered. You gonna sit down? He also says that you're the one he goes to when the job is, sensitive. That's the word he used, sensitive. I'm gonna use illegal, because that's what it was when you hacked into my computer. And I'm not gonna do anything about that. I could, but I won't. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you a story, and if it entertains you, maybe you'll decide to help me research further. And if not, I'll do the washing up and you'll never see me again. You know, you should eat that.
What kind of research?
Elizabeth. Oh, can I call you Elizabeth? I want you to help me catch a killer of women.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everybody, to the High Tech Low Life podcast. With your hosts, Eric and Josh. I'm Eric.
I'm Josh, and I'm curious what that voice was.
It was it was high energy that drained out of me as I thought about the movie we have to talk about.
All right.
We are, this week, watching not really a cyberpunk show, but it's got cyberpunk vibes, and that's all we really care about here. And that movie is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I think just right here at the very beginning, it's a good place to put some content warning, right?
Oh, yeah. Be aware that there is a bunch of stuff in this movie that is extraordinarily uncomfortable. Piles of sexual assault, and it's even for somebody like me who can there are certain things that'll just set me off in terms of I don't want to I don't want to see that, but there's not a lot. I mean, I'm pretty good at being able to just sit down and watch fucking weirdness or grossness and get past that. This movie is too well done to be able to do that for me. Everything is very visceral and very unpleasant, and so if you're sensitive to sexual assault topics and misogyny, you might want to skip the movie.
As for our show, I don't think we're going to belabor those scenes.
I hope
very
not.
much. We don't want to talk about it. But so I don't know. We'll try to keep it as tame as we can on our end. But if you haven't seen the movie yet, definitely keep that in mind. There's also
be aware
pretty graphic animal death scene, which is never my fave.
Nope, I had apparently blocked that out when I went to watch it the other. I mean,
we'll get into the deets, but this was a thoroughly unpleasant but very good movie, right?
Yeah, it's it is very, very skillful and very well done, and also at the same time an extremely tough hang.
Yeah. We'll talk about it more when we roll in. Let's talk about some happier news right now, like how the world is falling apart.
Well, one of the things that fell apart since we've recorded a podcast
Literally, yeah.
is a large bridge in Maryland.
Yeah, it did. I don't know if this is dystopia talk. I mean, it's all comes back to capitalism, but in reality, it was just kind of
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't really particularly dystopian, but it was pretty fucking crazy.
yeah, especially like coming 2 days after we
had 2 episodes about a bridge.
We just kept saying bridge, 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 bridge
over and over. Like literally the day after I had to release the episode where we just the bridge. Yeah, everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
It was awkward.
Here. Yeah, they were here.
Yeah. But what a crazy video to wake up to that day.
Yeah, it really was. And I don't know. I mean, I guess one bright side of it, if you're gonna, if there's anything resembling a bright side, is that this is not an example. Like for once, this isn't an example of our crumbling infrastructure. I mean,
no, the bridge isn't meant to hold up to what happened to it.
No, I mean, no bridges. So, I mean, that's something, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you could still lay the fault at the foot of capitalism for neglecting to maintain the boats or whatever the hell caused the problem.
I'll be interested to see, in a year when the results of the investigation come out.
Yeah, but you can't say that bridge didn't do its job.
Yeah, I mean, but there are certain things where if you press this button, the thing will go into failure mode. Right. And that button was pressed, and the failure mode was dramatic and on video.
Yeah. Yeah, that was bad times. You know another bad times that happened that we should probably mention?
Oh, what's that?
The World Central Kitchen convoy getting struck in Gaza.
Yeah, that's way more dystopic.
Incredibly dystopic.
Yeah, it's... for those of you who have successfully managed to block it out or aren't following the news or are, listening to this 4 years down the line.
Or 4 years before.
Oh, yeah. If you're back in like
2020, still worrying about COVID.
Yeah. You're you're like just recently in
right in the middle of it.
Yeah. You're like,
it's rough for you guys. If you're listening that back then.
Where am I going to get toilet paper?
Sucks. It doesn't get better though. So
no,
you got that to not look forward to.
Mm-hmm. So for those people, there's currently genocide being carried on in Palestine by the Israeli military. And last week, I don't remember, Monday or Tuesday, something like that, the Israeli military very, very clearly, intentionally blew up 3 vehicles in a convoy that were clearly labeled, very clearly labeled.
Had permission to be there, had a route picked out for them.
Mapped out, yeah. And it said literally on the roof, World Central Kitchen. They're a non-governmental aid organization done by Chef Jose Andres, who, if you aren't familiar with him, he seems like cool. A really good guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Israeli military just bombed, just war crimed the fuck out of those poor sons of bitches.
Yeah, not one accidental strike, but from what I've heard, 3.
Yeah.
Got them once, they moved to another vehicle, got them again, they moved to a third vehicle, and finished the job there.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's truly wild.
And it's to be clear, it's no more crazy than shit that's happening in Gaza every day. It's just another on the list.
Yeah, and this is a very easy thing to point to. Like, you can see where the rocket shot right through the center of the World Central Kitchen logo.
We are with 99.99 repeating percent certain that there was no Hamas in any of those vans.
Yeah. It's very bad out there.
And that just guarantees no more aid will come in, which was, I'm sure, the purpose all along, because they can claim it was an accident, and whether it was an accident or not, nobody's coming. So because nobody wants to get struck in a fucking accident or a real.
Yeah, I mean,
But we know it wasn't an accident. It
if,
couldn't have been.
if you saw the clips of Jose Andres talking about it that he posted, like,
Yeah,
man, I fucking feel for the dude. He obviously doesn't. I mean, he clearly wants to help people because this has been like his primary focus for the past, I don't know, half decade ish.
Yeah.
More. And he clearly doesn't want his friends and volunteers to be blown up by the Israeli military.
Yeah.
And can't, in good conscience, send people to be intentionally blown up by the Israeli military.
Yeah. Which is what they wanted.
Yeah.
So there was like a letter, 40 people in Congress to Joe Biden to ask for a permanent ceasefire, but I guess it's something.
Well, we'll look forward to the possibility of that happening.
Yeah. Maybe future President Trump will do something.
Yeah, that seems right.
Should we talk about other things?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's have a little bit of lightness before we get into
more darkness,
the movie. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to start recommendos.
Great.
With a mild recommendo, but a question about movies, if you don't mind.
Okie doke.
I went and saw.
I dig movies.
I went and saw Late Night with the Devil in the theater yesterday.
Yes, the David Dastmalchian film.
Yeah, a little controversial because they used some AI artwork in it.
Yeah.
But we went anyway. And that the AI artwork, I don't want to get into that discussion, although it's a valid one.
Yeah.
But what I really want to talk about is the movie was fine. I don't see it or don't. I don't care. It was fine.
Yeah.
But before it, there were trailers, and one of the trailers was for a new Planet of the Apes movie.
Oh yeah.
And my question is, does anybody actually watch those movies?
Okay.
I have only seen trailers from them. I've never heard anybody talk about them. I've seen trailers constantly, like my whole life, I feel like.
I have an answer for this.
Okay.
I have seen those movies.
Really?
I have never seen one in a theater.
Of course not.
But I have seen, I can't remember, like all the titles are all wrong. And by that, I mean, they don't like make sense with the movie.
Yeah, it's like the butt plug of the Planet of the Apes.
Well, it's okay. So I watched the first of the reboot, which was, I think it was, let me find it. Okay, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which was 2011.
Wow, it's been that long.
Yeah, same year as the movie we're watching for the show. So yeah, I watched that and it was fine. And then I was like, okay, well, I don't need to do that again. Then I saw, like, in the past 2 years, probably, I saw some people talking about how the sequels to that are actually like pretty.
So you saw people
surprisingly
talking
solid.
about them?
Yes.
I've never seen anybody talk about the movies.
Yes. This was specifically spurred by the fact that the director of, the second and, okay, so there are 3 so far. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is the first one, Dawn is the second, and War for the Planet of the Apes is the third one.
And now Kingdom is coming out.
Yeah. And the second 2 are directed and partially written by a guy named Matt Reeves, who is the one who did the Batman movie from 2 years ago.
Sure, yeah.
And it was in the context of that, like, I don't know, I'm cautiously optimistic because it seemed like the Planet of the Apes movies were going to be fucking stupid, but they're actually like pretty solidly made. So I watched them, and it's true. I mean, they're like not great movies, but they're they're definitely a step above kind of what you would expect them to be.
I guess what bothers me is that, like, after I saw the first Dune, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty blown away by it.
Sure.
And there was a bunch of discussion like, oh, will he get to make a sequel? Well, did it make enough money? Well, is it? And I'm like, how could you not want a sequel to that incredible movie?
Yeah.
And then, like, meanwhile, I never hear any discourse about Planet of the Apes ever. And there's like a new one every 2 years. I guess it's just Hollywood is a mystery to me.
It really is. And that's going to go into some of our discussion of the movie we're watching for the show.
That's
there,
cool.
Like, in terms of these Planet of the Apes movies, I guess they all made money, even though I definitely, at the times they were coming out, I remember seeing trailers for them and going, oh, monkeys.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen so many Planet of the Apes trailers.
Yeah. But apparently they made enough, and the concept of the films is valuable enough. They keep going with them. I mean,
it's interesting.
And having seen the trailer for the Kingdom one, I'm like, maybe I'll go see that.
That'll probably make money.
Yeah, and I mean, I probably won't go to the theater to see it, but I'll probably watch it on, when it comes out on streaming.
Well, if you're an ape head out there, get at us.
Get at us, ape heads. I mean, it's probably kind of like, to some extent, the Godzilla films, where, like...
But I hear people talk about Godzilla. I see tweets about Godzilla. People love Godzilla.
They do. On the other hand, nobody, like, up until the past handful of years, nobody talks about new Godzilla movies at all. They've had, like, a new Godzilla movie, like, probably 3 new Godzilla movies every 2 years for the past, I don't know, 70 years?
You're not wrong. I just feel like Godzilla is more entrenched in society than Planet of the Apes. The legacy power of Godzilla is stronger.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if we're going back to including, like, the original Planet of the Apes movies, that's pretty, even
they're
though
they're not on Godzilla level.
Not quite, but man, Statue of Liberty and the Sand.
If Godzilla is S tier, Planet of the Apes is C at best.
So let's see, it goes
I know
it
goes S A B
C. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe people would disagree with that. I mean, Planet of the Apes was big enough that Don Draper watched it with Bobby in one of the episodes of Mad Men.
That's true.
So it must have been culturally relevant, the original movie. But
it
Godzilla.
It was on The Critic.
It was on The Critic, yes. But
like,
Godzilla.
I agree. I mean, Godzilla is clearly a tier well above Planet of the Apes, but Planet of the Apes has a lot of fucking cultural penetration, especially for people who are like a handful of years older than we are.
Yeah.
I mean,
there aren't many of those left, though.
Yeah, that's true.
At least it feels that way.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, that's enough on apes, but I was just thinking about it as I was watching the trailer, how little cultural relevance they seem to have, but yet they keep making movies.
I agree. Well, it's sort of like similarly, the Transformers movies. Like, I don't know, I think there have been
there's been a lot.
10 or 12 Transformers movies since the first Michael Bay Transformers movie, which was 2004 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
Like, there have been a shitload of them, and never once have I considered watching any of them. And yet I see trailers, and apparently they do. Like, I've never heard anybody talk real positively, but apparently they make money.
I saw the first one in the theater. Thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I think there's just a big market for, and unfortunately this market is very crowded right now, but just a big blockbuster movie that doesn't require anything going into or while you're watching. Like, you can just be like, I want movie. Transformers is movie, me go movie, watch, leave, say that was movie. And I think Apes and Transformers probably fit those bills.
That's not an unreasonable way to think of it.
And maybe I'm overthinking what people need out of film, because I'm a professional film critic now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough of that. Do you have any recommendos?
I do. One, is vaguely related to some of the themes we often address on this program. I watched a little movie from, I think it was 1999, called Enemy of the State.
That wasn't a Will Smith movie, was it? Sounds like a Will.
It was, in fact, a Will Smith movie.
Nice.
And it's directed by Tony Scott and stars Will Smith and Gene Hackman. And it's kind of a stealth sequel to The Conversation.
Okay.
Where
I remember it being good. I think I've seen
Yeah.
it. It's just been a while.
I was talking to somebody and they mentioned like, oh, I really like Enemy of the State. It's one of those movies that I see it on cable every once in a while and I can just happily sit down and watch it no matter where it is.
Yeah, that's probably how I watched it.
Yeah. And it's a Will Smith gets drawn into some fairly silly espionage stuff with, I don't know, the NSA is killing people. And Will Smith ends up accidentally with evidence of this. And he ends up in contact with Gene Hackman, who is basically playing his character from The Conversation, even though it's
not officially.
Not officially, although at one point you do see on a computer screen a scan of his old ID card, which is
pretty official then.
Which is literally a picture of him from The Conversation. And it's all about, intrusive surveillance and stuff like that. Anyway, fun.
Thank God that went away in the last 25 years.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like we've discussed on other aspects of the podcast before, I'm thinking specifically of Strange Days, where it gets to a point and the movie ends and the good guys win when something bad is exposed.
Yeah, exposure is all you need.
Yeah. Recommend that. It's a pretty solid movie 25 years after the fact.
Yeah, I like that. I remember liking that movie. Of course, that was back when Will Smith could do no wrong.
Well, and fucking Gene Hackman is, he's popping.
He's Gene Hackman. He's the Hackmeister.
Yeah, that guy was in a bunch of bad movies, but fuck if I can name a single time he is bad in any movie.
Yeah. Isn't it cool that we don't have to worry about the surveillance state anymore because we privatized it to doorbell camera companies?
Yeah, it's very cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
Anything else? I don't have any more.
I do. I have 1.5 more things. Okay. The half, I watch Wild at Heart, which is a David Lynch movie from 1991 with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. And also another has never been bad in anything actor, Harry Dean Stanton.
Yes. Big fan.
I had
from New York.
Yes, obviously. He will be back on this program.
Yeah.
It's I hadn't seen it in 25 years. I think it was VHS that I last saw it. And, man, David Lynch is just such a fucking weirdo, combined with Nicolas Cage being such a fucking weirdo. And Laura Dern being Laura Dern. Great movie. Good.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's a beautiful romance. And Willem Dafoe being a complete creep.
Do you get to watch him fuck?
No, you do not. But he does have prosthetic teeth and gums.
Oh, neat.
It's horrible looking. It is mentioned that basically off screen of the movie, he is a pornographer. So
cool. Great.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is I watched on your recommendation from a couple of months ago, The Brother's Son.
Oh, yeah. Soon, I believe it is. But...
Soon. Yeah. I've just got it written here. So
I feel like in the show they go back and forth, but I think officially it's soon.
It's probably one of those white people say son.
Right.
And that show was fun and good, and I wish they were going to make more of it.
Yeah, sad they didn't take it up again.
I really like it. Had some really fun and exciting performances. I'm specifically talking about what was the guy's name? He was kind of the round bald bodyguard.
Yeah, I know exactly
dude.
what you're talking about. I can't remember his character name either. It was something you wouldn't expect.
Yeah. Blood Boots.
Blood Boots. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
He was great.
Yeah, I really liked him, and wish I saw him in more stuff. The thing that I mainly wanted to bring this up for, other than, hey, good show, watch it, was I am utterly amazed at that show's fucking restraint. Like, watching that show, I had a level of tension in the back of my head for like, I think it was 8 episodes, maybe 10, for like at least 6 episodes where I'm going, oh man, any fucking minute now, Michelle Yeoh's gonna just unleash.
Just gonna do Michelle Yeoh shit.
Because why do you hire Michelle Yeoh unless you're gonna have her do some fucking whip ass kung fu shit?
Yeah, the wires out.
I mean, like, why? Like, that is Michelle Yeoh's purpose in life. But, and this is a small spoiler, she never does.
Yeah, when she I think she fights a little bit, but she fights like a normal person pretty much.
Yeah, and like incredible show of restraint on the show's part, and also like it is a very, like, you watch that show and you go, man, Michelle Yeoh, she is a really good fucking actress. Like,
Yeah.
she should get hired even if she's not kung fu fighting.
Yeah,
I mean,
love her.
Yeah, it was a surprise because I, like, up until the last second of the show, I was expecting she floats and kicks.
Yeah, her I think she has like one fight and she does a good job, but it just looks like a real like I remember that one particular.
Yeah,
it
she
looks
just
like a real fucking
runs
brawl.
around and gets punched a couple of times.
Yeah,
and
beats people with
yeah
makeshift weaponry she sees laying around.
Yeah, it's an incredible restraint on the showrunner's part because you hired Michelle Yeoh. Like, how do you not, like? It would be impossible to resist. Okay, now we're gonna shoot you taking the garbage out. Can you do that in the coolest way possible?
Well, maybe she didn't want to be kung fu lady this time.
But fucking good for her.
There's plenty of kung fu in the rest of it,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I like it because it's got a lot of interesting weirdo characters in it.
Yeah.
So check that one out for sure. All right, we got to stop. It's time to press on. So, because we got to hit a tight 90, we've only got an hour left.
Okay.
Let's see. Girl with the dragon tattoo. This is where you'd put a commercial. Yeah, awesome intro. Let's just get that out of the way first. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I knew all of the content warnings before going into this. Josh sent them to me via text, but I'd already kind of known.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not looking forward to watching the movie. Like, really wasn't. I was whining to you via text that I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And figured I'd do it in chunks. Figured we'd record this late and I'd watch it in like 20-minute chunks. But can't lie, man. Sat down, turned it on, sat through the whole thing. It was tough, but that Fincher guy knows how to make a movie.
Yeah, it is a tough fucking hang.
Yeah.
But shit, it is something about it compels me.
Yeah. The first half felt like 2 movies, one of which I really wanted to go away and the other which I was incredibly interested in.
Yeah, that's part of the trick of this movie. Because number one, my my one-line synopsis of how I feel about this movie is very good, like super competent, but a rough watch.
Yeah.
But the thing about the movie and how well fucking done it is that unlike, say, like, I don't know, I mean, Burst City. Okay, Burst City had much of the same content.
Yeah.
But this is so...
Burst City was obviously a first movie of a guy with no money, and this is...
Yeah. And David Fincher has such a command of what the camera is doing and, like, tonally, how things fit together, that even though, like, if I just described the horrible scenes, you would say, oh yeah, that could be out of Burst City, or that could be out of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
They end up with a totally different tone, and even though it's horrible and you want to stop watching, in this one you kind of can't. And Burst City, you could like turn away for about 3 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. There's a level of skill with this movie that is fucking incredible, honestly.
One interesting thing about Fincher, like I would never, from where I'm at, he's never really been on my, like, the name I knew, but I couldn't, if you said name a Fincher movie, until recently with Mindhunter, which I got into for a while, I couldn't really name anything he'd done. And then, like I said, I loved Mindhunter, and then as I'm watching this, I'm realizing, oh shit, maybe I just really like David Fincher movies. And now I'm looking at his IMDb, and it's like, oh, I really like all of these movies.
You do, yeah.
I think I'm a big fan of his and never really knew.
Yeah, the guy can direct the hell out of a movie.
It's interesting, but I guess he's not like a in-your-face director. Maybe he's not. I don't know. I don't know why it is that he snuck under my radar, like his name and his.
Yeah, partially is that he, even though he's clearly an extremely brilliant guy and very funny and very smart and good at talking about movies, he's not an obnoxiously, like, he's not the type of director you put on a late night show to sell a movie, unlike, say, Quentin.
Right.
Or,
yeah.
And
he's not like Denis Villeneuve going out there and saying, I hate dialogue and wish it could be removed from all movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the guy, but that's a dumb thing to say.
Yeah. He also doesn't have, Fincher also doesn't have a ridiculous accent.
True.
He's, if you just see a picture of Fincher, he just looks like the most milquetoast dude on the planet.
Yeah, he's just a white dude.
Yeah, he's a white dude who is 15 years older than I am and looks like every white dude 15 years older than I am.
Yeah, pretty much.
He would have voted for Obama a third time.
Yeah, he's definitely that white dude. But man, I loved Zodiac.
Yeah,
I really liked Gone Girl. I never saw The Social Network. Maybe I should.
Social Network is real. I mean, it's
just, I hate the thing. It's the concept. I fucking hate it.
So does the movie.
Maybe that's the problem with Fincher. He does movies about things that I don't really want to watch movies about.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Because I really didn't want to watch this movie. I kind of put movies with themes like this one has. I've kind of just stopped watching them, honestly.
Yeah, that's completely reasonable.
The real world's hard enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did a good job.
Yeah. He do good movie. Especially one like this where, and we can talk more about this as we get further into it. This movie is structured pretty insanely for a major motion picture.
Yeah, that's true now that you mention it.
It does not have anything resembling a 3-act structure. Like, just
I would say the climax is like 30 minutes before the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's literal. I checked that on my phone last night as I was finishing watching the movie. I was like, okay, and here's where the climax starts, and look at it. Okay, 30 minutes and 58 seconds from the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 5-act structure, which is fucking weird for a major motion picture.
It felt like a TV show, kind of.
Yeah, that's the most common place you see 5-act structure is in hour-long TV dramas.
Yeah.
Just because of kind of the way, but we don't do movies that way commonly. It's a weird one, and that is another thing. Like, aside from all the content and aside from all the very unpleasant and uncomfortable content of this movie, the structure makes it even more uncomfortable because it is so off of what we normally see in films.
Unfamiliar.
Yeah, it completely, like, I don't know. You get into once you kind of finish the second act, which is okay. So the first act is Michael Blomkvist. Like, what's he going to do with his life now that it's been ruined by this fucking arms dealer?
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets hired. Like, what he's going to do, the resolution to that act is he's going to go work on this, researching this mystery case for an old man. Then the second act is like it basically gives up on that, and and then it's like, okay, now we're seeing this insane looking girl,
Yeah.
and we're watching her plot, and like we go in depth into her, and then kind of that ends, and then beginning of the third act, she and Blomkvist hook up and are both investigating the same thing. It's structurally it is very bizarre and so off-putting if you're just used to watching a 3-act movie. I mean, because it's got way too many different peaks and valleys than what we're used to.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. I spent like the first hour like, are these two gonna meet at any point? Like,
yeah,
it didn't seem like they would.
Yeah, it's an incredibly smart decision because, from what I understand is, and this ended up getting all fucked up by a number of things going on in the world, but the idea behind doing this movie was, okay, Sony hired David Fincher, and he said this in a couple of interviews, to make a hard R adult drama franchise. So the plan was to do 3 films, like from like the minute they signed on the line that was dotted.
Yeah.
And then that got all fucked up by movie business and world stuff. But I think what was like, unlike most other movies, this is actually structured to be, the whole movie is a 5-act structure, which is the first act of a planned 3 acts, and each act is its own film.
Okay. Were they going to do the 3 that the Swedish version made?
Yeah, the 3 books that Stieg Larsson wrote.
Yeah.
But then there was like, this movie only made a little bit more than its budget, and also like 6 weeks later or something, 8 weeks later, the Avengers came out and made like $700 million in the US alone. So that kind of
priorities shifted.
Yeah, priorities shifted, and then as other things in the world happened, the Sony hack occurred, which, even though we don't think about it much these days, had a major impact in what people were making movies wear and who they wanted to deal with.
Interesting.
And yeah, there were a lot of...
They were like, no more Swedes.
Well, not just that. It was, oh my God, like there were lots of very gossipy emails in the hack that were like, oh, I fucking hate working with this guy. He makes good movies, but fucking shit, I hate dealing with this son of a bitch. Or, oh, this executive will motherfuck you every chance you get. And just all sorts of back and forth like that, which really realigned a bunch of people in the movie business.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So then we didn't get the second and third movies.
Don't know how I feel about that. Net positive or negative? I don't know.
I honestly, the thing is, I will watch a goddamn David Fincher movie. I mean, if they had made 2 more, I would have definitely sat down in the theater.
Did you ever watch this? Is this the first time you've watched this? Or
no, no, I saw we saw it in the theater when it came out, and then probably like right about when it came out on Blu-ray, I want to say.
Okay.
Actually, no, it might have been like right before Gone Girl came out, because I thought, oh, I should watch that again.
Yeah. I remember it being kind of a phenomenon, right? Like it was in the zeitgeist at the time.
Yeah, the books were one of those things that happens every once in a while, where just kind of out of nowhere, due to all sorts of weird cultural factors and general quality and how publishing houses work, it became the book became a huge phenomenon.
Yeah. Although
and
the author died in 2004, Stieg.
Yes, yeah, he died after, like, it was even before the first book was published, but
Yeah.
he had written 3.
Yeah, I read that.
And so that added a little bit to the zeitgeist.
Sure, makes sense.
And so it was just one of those kind of, like, the publishing industry would hate it that I said this, but
Well, come at us, publishing industry.
yeah, come at us. It was one of those kind of random things that, like, it super kicked off. And, you know, even though the publishing industry would love to be able to say, oh, yeah, no, we knew that was going to happen. They do that with every different publishing house does that with 10 books a year.
Right.
And none of them, you know, maybe one a year works. But this was similar in zeitgeist to, what was the first Dan Brown book? Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, sure.
The Da Vinci Code, or Gone Girl, like 3 years later.
Yeah.
By Gillian Flynn.
See, the only movies of books of that time I know were popping off was like Twilight and shit, right? Or is that a little after that?
That's a little after that, and it's a slightly different thing.
I know.
Yeah, these are like, and the semi-derogatory way to refer to them is as airport thrillers.
Okay, yeah.
You buy them at an airport, read them on the flight, and then end up leaving them on a beach chair.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to take it home. I mean, it's a $6 paperback. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But yeah, these books were an example of that. And then, so they like flew into production relatively, and hired Steve Zalian, who has written a bunch for Steven Spielberg. Like, I think he wrote Munich, and he's actually done I should look up his IMDb. Okay, so yeah, Steve Zalian, number one, very recently, like came out Thursday recently. He's the guy who created and wrote the current Ripley miniseries that's on Netflix, starring Andrew Scott, aka Hot Priest from Fleabag.
Ripley, like Alien Ripley?
No, Ripley, like the
Like
Talented Mister.
Oh, Believe It or Not was another option. A lot of Ripley options.
There really are. Like, considering the amount of Ripley people that I have known in my life, which is zero?
Zero, yeah. I've never met a Ripley.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, anyway, it's a Netflix adaptation miniseries of The Talented Mr. Ripley, apparently. Cool. He also wrote The Night Of, which was an HBO series like 8 years ago, that had Riz Ahmed being tried for a murder, and was really good. He also wrote Moneyball.
Like that movie.
Yeah. American Gangster, which was the Russell Crowe Denzel film.
Very good movie.
Gangs of New York. Yeah.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Schindler's List, never heard of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, he's read a bunch of stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Must be nice to be fucking rich.
Yeah. I'm sure it is, honestly.
Sure it is. Like to experience it and then hopefully not be killed.
Okay. So the recap portion.
Recap portion. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So number one, the score starts immediately. Like the instant the Columbia logo pops up on screen, it goes to score, which is...
Yeah, I was kind of scared.
Yeah, it's a kind of startling choice because nearly all the time it's silence over production company logos. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of old men talk on the phone about one receiving a pressed flower in the mail, and you're like, what the fuck is this about? And then there's a really wicked title sequence.
Very wicked.
Uh,
One of my faves, I might venture to say, actually.
it's really, really like that was one of the main things I remember about this movie very clearly is that title sequence with the Karen O version of Immigrant Song.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole sequence, which is like all sorts of weird imagery, like dream imagery versions from both this movie and then things that would have happened in the next couple of movies, is all in this crazy, like black and dark gray liquid and all CG. And
felt pretty cyberpunk, not gonna lie.
It's honestly the most cyberpunk thing about the movie, like just that 3-minute sequence.
Yeah. That and like her outfits.
Yeah, Lisbeth Salander hanging out.
Yeah.
That title sequence was done by a guy named Tim Miller, who also has gone on to do things like direct the first Deadpool movie. And I think Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, which is very cyber. It's not very punk.
Not very high tech or low life, but it was fun.
We'll definitely be running into him again because he is also the director of a little film called Terminator Dark Fate.
Oh, God. We will be running into him for sure.
Yes.
By the way, I was in Las Vegas over the last week, and in the hotel room, I had to both skip past watching Terminator 2 and Terminator 1, knowing that we would be watching them soon, and it was hard to resist not rewatching the original Terminator.
Understandable. Those first two are...
They're amazing. I did end up watching the last 5 minutes of Terminator 2 because I've seen it enough times. It's not ruined.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Yeah, we got to get on Judgment Day.
Yeah. I'm afraid.
Me too. Believe me. This is I'm both looking forward to it and dreading it.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if you don't watch the movie, go on YouTube and watch the credits. It's just a hell of a music video.
Yeah, it's a great music video is what it is, yeah.
Which is interesting because that's where David Fincher got his start. He was a huge video director for the late 80s, early 90s. He did Faith by George Michael and Freedom. A bunch of
there are few videos as classic as Faith by George Michael.
Yeah, and I think it's Freedom 90. That's the one with it's just supermodels hanging around in like a gutted apartment and like pictures burning and stuff.
Yeah.
It's wild shit. And a bunch of Madonna videos. He dated Madonna for a while. And actually his very first job, I think his very first job in movies was he worked on the matte paintings for Return of the Jedi and also did some matte work on Escape from New York.
Oh, that's pretty remarkable. He also he did Cradle of Love by Billy Idol.
Yeah.
Madonna's Vogue, that's a huge one.
He did serious music video work. I mean, like some of the most remembered, even if I don't recall any of his that are like the huge, like Michael Jackson or Guns N' Roses epic videos where they're like a movie.
No, but he did do Janie's Got a Gun by Aerosmith.
Oh, holy shit. Yeah, I didn't.
Which is
close.
Getting close. Yeah. Huh, interesting. Good for him.
Yeah, I think he's got a...
Michael Jackson, Who Is It? I don't remember that one.
Yeah, me neither.
Love is Strong by Rolling Stones. I love that. I bought that on Casino.
Oh, that's the one where they're giant and stomping around New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Off the Voodoo Lounge record?
I think so. I loved that song as a kid. Why? Why did I like that song so much? Anyway.
Yeah. I think he might be one of the guys who Criterion put out a DVD of just his music videos. years ago.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting to watch.
Along with like Spike Jonze and Chris Cunningham.
Oh, if you could find that, that'd be a great Patreon ep.
Yeah, honestly, we'd sit there and fucking jam.
Just jam.
Yeah.
Watch old videos, relive our youth. I think that'd be fantastic. Get Sean on to join us.
Oh, shit, yeah. Okay, so watch the credit sequence, everybody.
Yeah.
And then after this insanely cool, like, sci-fi horror animated credit sequence, we cut to Daniel Craig coming out of a courtroom who has just been sued for libel and lost, like, every cent he owns.
It is a weird switch. You're expecting you're not expecting Daniel Craig.
It's really interesting how the first 5 minutes of this movie, counting the credit sequence in there. Okay, so you got the old men talking about receiving a pressed flower in the mail. Then you have this insane title sequence, and then you have Daniel Craig glasses acting and ordering a coffee. And that's like the whole movie right there.
Well, he also orders, I like this because I've done this. He buys a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, smokes one and throws in the trash, throws the rest of the pack in the trash. Just going to say I've been there.
Yeah. So he's Mecca Blomqvist. He's an investigative reporter for an independent magazine. And if you know anything about Stieg Larsson's biography, he is clearly a self-insert character. He's this cool, principled investigative reporter who gets with all the hot women. And, it's very much he's like the protagonist of most lawyer novels, because nearly every lawyer novel is written by a lawyer, and they're the most idealized version of that lawyer who wrote that book.
Right. Kind of gross.
Yeah, it's just a thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to fuck them. They're good at whatever they need to be. So yeah, he works with /for Robin Wright, who
doing a pretty good Swedish accent.
Yeah, the way she's made up and dressed and stuff, and her accent. I mean, I've been watching Robin Wright in movies for 40 years now.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what, Princess Bride?
I forgot that. Yeah,
so I am very familiar with Robin Wright.
She's in. She in 2049? Is that who plays the lead cop?
Yes, I think you're right.
Played Blade Runner's wife, boss.
Yes,
Mr. Blade
same difference.
Wife.
She put him in cells.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very familiar with Robin Wright and what she looks like and her being in movies, but it actually took me a minute to recognize, like, oh, that's not just some really good Swedish actress.
Yeah, she nailed it.
She just really looks like a attractive, middle-aged European actress. And, her accent's great. And shockingly, even though she's married to somebody else, she and Blomqvist are screwing. And everybody's happy with the arrangement. It's fine. Her husband
nobody seems to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Except his wife, who leaves him for it.
Well, I think his wife left him because he's just too dedicated to his job.
Yeah, but he does say at one point had an affair.
Yeah.
That ruined his marriage, but not hers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. It's not really important at all.
We also, for a half second, see the great Swedish actor Joel Kinnaman standing in the office. He'll be back on the program.
Okay.
He is the main character in For All Mankind. He was also in this same year that this movie came out. He's the second lead in the American version, or the American series, The Killing. And we will see him again in the future. Oh, yeah. He's also the lead in Altered Carbon.
Oh.
First season.
Yeah.
And in the RoboCop remake.
He's definitely coming back a couple times.
Yeah. The RoboCop remake.
He's made his mark in the cyberpunk world. I actually look forward to the RoboCop remake. I don't know if we should do it before or after the original.
I honestly kind of want to see it before, because it's been so long since I saw RoboCop.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a chance that I might think the remake is okay if I watch it before.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I certainly didn't watch it previously. So anyway, so Michael Bloomquist loses all his money. He quits to keep from taking the magazine down with him, and then he gets hired. Well, gets a job interview to investigate a 50-year-old murder from a guy named Henrik Wenger.
Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, Chris Plummer. His niece was murdered in 1966, and it's set up as kind of a locked room mystery type thing where she, the island they live on was cut off from the mainland, and she just disappeared. And there are plenty of suspects because his family is full of fucking Nazis and creeps and wife beaters. And
that's part of what I think is so weird about this movie, because a locked room mystery like that is a very comforting genre to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying when I say that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It feels familiar. Like I could nestle in one night, and even though it's dealing with murder and intrigue and stuff, it's a comfortable, cozy thing to watch. Whereas the other things happening in the story are so the opposite of that. It's strange.
Especially when the locked room mystery, like the mystery itself, occurred 50 years before the movie.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I would equate it to very similarly. I feel like a lot of the movies that I like and are sort of my comfort watches are these really procedural movies where, okay, there might be some big plot happening, but a lot of it is like, Moneyball is a good example of this. Mm-hmm. There's a big plot. We're trying to not be the Cleveland Indians in
Major League.
Major League
is one of my comfort watches. So
yeah, but really the movie is Brad Pitt looking at stuff and like having conversations and this guy gets on base a lot, but he doesn't hit any home runs. And
that's why it's such a great movie to watch via TikTok in 60-second increments like I did recently.
Yeah. Or like, a lot of the movies that I really like are that type of film where we're just watching the process of somebody who's good at their job do something.
Yeah, I get that.
And this movie also has some of that, where a huge amount of this movie is somebody sitting down at a laptop and flicking through photos, or
like a good montage of the two of them working, doing their thing side by side.
Yeah. So he ends up getting hired onto this job. He's going to stay on the island and research the family, et cetera, et cetera. Heinrich is just dedicated to this. The thing is, he received the pressed flowers thing. He received several pressed flowers from his niece Harriet while she was alive on his birthday. And now every year since she died, she was murdered, he continues to receive pressed flowers every year on his birthday and is being taunted by the murderer.
Yeah.
With that. So he wants to figure it out before he dies because he's Christopher Plummer. He's very old.
Yep. Has been his whole life.
Yes. He turned old like the instant Sound of Music stopped filming, I think.
Yeah.
He went from, I think he was like 38 when he did that movie, and he instantly became 75 years old.
When did he die? Like recently, right?
5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
something like that.
He was in Knives Out. I remember that. He was great in Knives Out.
Yeah, he was. That's a fucking dude who worked good.
Yeah.
So yeah. And it's also mentioned we meet Bloomquist's daughter for a second. She's religious. It's weird.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
I guess it does serve a small purpose in the plot to give him a Dr. House moment, but other than that, pointless.
There's and that kind of comes from the book, in that a ton of the book is just weird little Swedish stuff. Like, if you were to tell if you were to tell a random Swedish person in Sweden that you were like pretty religious, they'd be like, "Oh, really? That's weird." you know. And there's just a lot of just dumb little Swedisms.
See, I have no experience with Sweden, never been there, but I did live in Lindsborg, Kansas, aka
Yes.
Little Sweden, so I feel like I'm an expert.
Yeah, you're into it.
I danced I wore traditional Swedish garb as a kindergartner and danced in a big circle in the center of town like a normal person. Sure, I did that.
He fucked the Dala horse.
I fucked many a dollar horse, as his tradition.
Yeah. So that's kind of how the first act of Michael's thing goes. He also gets a cat. Oh.
Yeah.
So then we cut over to a character who has absolutely no fucking relevance to anything we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Her name is Lisbeth Salander. We did actually meet her earlier. She investigated Blomqvist for the Vanger people.
Yeah.
To see if they could hire and trust him.
Couldn't really figure out what her job was. She worked for a security company.
Yeah.
She told her ward or whatever that
Guardian, yeah.
Yeah, that she does mail and stuff, but it seemed like I guess she hacks
she's an investigator and
focusing on internet stuff.
Yeah, she is a hacker witch. Yeah.
Which is cyberpunk.
Exactly.
The only cyberpunk thing besides her outfits.
The thing is, you could drop her into literally any other property we have seen.
Yeah, and she'd be awesome.
And she would be as cyberpunk as anything in them. But she is the only cyberpunk thing in this movie.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
I don't know why this shows up on the list. I don't feel like it's really... I mean, we could talk about it at the end. We don't have to belabor it, but let's just keep going.
So, yeah, she is a ward of the state because she's insane. A number of conversations she has in relation to her ward of the state status make me just like dream of the socialist systems they have in place. Yeah, just like she goes and meets up with her fucking fat hacker friend wearing a 9 Inch Nails shirt, and she's gonna get something from him and gives him money, and he says, "I am on welfare. I do not administer it." Yeah. Just like the idea that people,
could get stuff that they need to live.
Yeah, people could just live.
Yeah, what an idea.
Yeah, it really is. So her guardian has a stroke, so she gets a new guardian for the state. This is like not part of the plot of the movie at all, except for the fact that it's a very important part of the movie and the character of Lisbeth Salander. He has a stroke, so she gets a new guardian, and this guy is a terrible rapist. And a complete fucking nightmare, and is swollen like a tick.
Yeah.
And she gets very, very viscerally sexually assaulted twice. The first time is like, like in the movie, she says something about how the first time was unpleasant enough because it was scaling things in this is bad.
Let's just say that she gets assaulted in one way, and then she's like, "I'm going to bust this guy and have him do that again, and I'll get it on camera, and then I'll be able to blackmail him." But the second time is much worse, and she does end up getting it all on camera, and she does end up blackmailing him, but it's much more traumatic than anybody expected going into it. And that's pretty much the gist of it, and all we really need to say.
And then she
does assault him back. Yeah, which is satisfying to watch.
It's also like it's a really like we don't want to get too far into it in the show, but it's really interesting how they do that. In that, like, the scenes where she's being sexually assaulted are visceral and horrible and unpleasant, and then she gets her revenge by assaulting him back, and it is equally visceral and horrible. And I mean, but at the same time, you're going, yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, get that fucker.
It's a really interesting, like, it's very good movie making.
It ends with him getting a big tattoo on his chest that says, "I'm a rapist pig."
Yeah.
Which if only they all could get that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And a number of threats of future retribution and how he's going to start making her life easier.
Yep, which is followed up on later. She does later.
Yeah.
Stop by his place once and remind him that,
yeah, she's just checking on him.
I'm your ghost. I'm lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, and if I ever catch you alone with a woman again,
yeah,
it's like, again, it's really good movie making because you're like, yes, fucking get this guy, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, this is very fucking horrible in the same way that the other scenes were. Good job. Like,
I don't know.
It's really, I should have looked it up. I'm curious what Roger Ebert thought about this, because his main theory on how to review movies and how to look at movies is that movies are an empathy machine, which is a really good and like pretty valid way to, like, if you think about it and kind of read into what he meant by that, it makes sense. But it also is a theory that that has a lot of trouble retaining relevance when you're looking at a movie with really uncomfortable themes and weirdness. Like he was never solid with kind of, like, he liked some David Lynch movies, but there's a level of weirdness and perversity, that theory kind of falls apart at. Like, movies are for generating empathy in the audience towards what's on screen, and the sexual assault scenes in this movie are a test of that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move past them, though.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so anyway, Michael Blomkvist decides that he's going to hire Lisbeth Salander because he learns from the Vanger people that she's the one who did a background check on him.
Are we there already?
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that was way late in the movie, but you're kind of right. Like, it was the big chunk of it was her getting her financial situation figured out.
Yeah, and also I did skip over unintentionally in the scenes where Blomkvist is getting settled into the island and stuff. There is a ton of really well orchestrated cut from modern day to flashback stuff and flashback to 1966. And I had totally forgotten that Julian Sands is the guy who plays the young Christopher Plummer. And Julian Sands, he's an English actor who's been in tons of shit. I think probably most famously Warlock, the Warlock movies, if you remember those from video.
Oh, I don't.
He's a really good English actor. He was also in a bunch of like Merchant Ivory films. You would recognize his face, even if you hadn't just seen this movie. But actually felt a little bad because he died like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. He went for a hike and disappeared.
Oh, yikes.
And they found his body like a year or two later. Damn. It was one of those, Julian Sands has gone missing. And apparently he was a big hiking guy and went up into the Sierra Nevadas and got caught in a storm and, done.
Carry a sat phone, people.
Mm-hmm.
We also skipped over a ton of interviews that Mikhail Blomkvist did with residents of the island who are all members of this family. And that's probably my favorite part, actually, if it wasn't interspersed with the horrible scenes.
Yeah.
I love meeting all the weirdos, all the Nazis and the...
Definitely Nazi weirdos.
Like
and also...
Donald Sumter is the detective that originally took over the case.
He's very good. This movie is full of, like, you just turn a corner and like, oh, hey, great character actor incoming.
Right. So many.
And also Stellar Skateboard as Martin.
Yes, Stellan Skarsgård. Yes.
He's
fantastic.
Normcore perfection.
Yeah, you want to be his friend in the first part, and then you hate him more than life itself at the second part.
He is, God, that fucking guy, man.
He's great. Them Skarsgårds.
Yeah, he is a dude that I have been enthusiastic about since fucking Hunt for Red October. And man, he maybe achieves his final form here.
Here?
In this movie.
Depends on what final form is, because Andor, man.
Oh yeah, he is incredible on fucking Andor. God,
so good in Andor.
That speech he gives.
Yeah.
That's solid. But just the way he vacillates in this, from like, hey, oh, let's have a nice dinner.
Actually, he achieves his final form in an interview I saw. This was back when the first Dune came out, and they had like the whole cast in a semicircle, and it's all these young hot people and fucking Stellan Skarsgård, and they're all interviewing like pop culture stuff. And he gets to him, he's like, I don't know, I just did the movie and put on the fat suit.
I put on it took 7 hours to get in the fat suit, and then they submerged me in oil.
It's fine. I just tried to get paid.
Yeah.
He's great. And watch Andor.
Yeah. Yes. God, that speech in like the next to last episode or whatever it is.
It's the best part of the show, of a really great show.
Is maybe the best Star Wars since the original trilogy.
I think you're maybe before the original trilogy. It might be the best Star Wars. I liked Andor.
Yeah.
I would definitely put it up there with the original, like equal at worst.
Yeah. Anyway.
Are they going to make more of that, you think?
Yes. It has been in production. It got like slowed down by striking last summer. I think it's going to be sometime next year.
That'd be great.
And the plan is just for 2 seasons. So it's not going to be, another season and then a 3-year wait.
We like us some true anti-fash Star Wars.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a good goddamn show.
Anyway, we love the skateboard.
Yeah. Yes, we love Stellar Skateboard. And his children.
Except for the Crow movie, which we've bitched about before. I don't know.
Make Eric Draven a juggalo.
Hashtag make Eric Draven a juggalo.
Yeah. Oh, and I also, I apparently just like completely skipped over basically a paragraph's worth of my notes. Part of the reason that Blomkvist decided to take the job is that the guy he had been sued by for libel had worked for the Vanguard Corporation like 30 years before, and basically they promised to give him piles of dirt.
They had dirt on him.
That he could ruin, Wennerstrom is that guy's name, with if he solved the case.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to skip over because that's kind of the motivating force behind him.
Yeah, that's his inciting. That's kind of his incitement to adventure.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't want an adventure, he's gonna sit in a cold cabin and look at photocopies.
But to get us back on track, we're back up to the point where Michael Blomkvist and Lisbeth Salander have teamed up. They team up in an interesting way. He just kind of barges into her apartment and
he just kind of
gives
shows
her
up.
a cheeseburger.
Brings her a breakfast sandwich and a coffee. She's wearing a shirt that says "fuck you, you fucking fuck."
Yeah, I like it. She has to kick her girlfriend out. Well, her one night stand girlfriend out.
Yeah. And he's like, "Okay, you know who I am. I know who you are. I've maybe got some work for you. Let's talk about it." And she's like, "Okay, this sounds interesting." And I guess the inciting incident or the inciting call to adventure for her is he's looking for a man who kills women.
Yeah.
Which apparently the original Swedish title for the series, which Larson was planning on doing, like, I don't know, 8 or 10 books or something like that, was going to be Men Who Hate Women.
Yeesh.
Yeah, and it makes sense if you read the couple of sequels to this thing that he put out. It's like, this movie is very steeped in misogyny is bad, don't do a misogyny. I mean,
Yeah.
like, misogyny, sexual assault, these are bad things. Don't.
Well, still, that's the message, but yet still fails on some levels because it's clearly written and directed by men.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's certainly
that
true.
is undeniable when you watch it.
Yeah. Although it's really interesting, as, like, there is for a character that's naked, like, a fair amount in the movie. Lisbeth Salander is not really shot as, like, not erotically shot.
I don't know. I guess
mean,
that's a matter of opinion.
yeah,
And
I
Daniel
suppose
Craig's
that's true.
naked. I mean, not like full frontal naked, but he's in banana hammock for a large portion of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
should be.
The fact that they hook up, which they do not long after where we are in this story, is weird and uncomfortable to me. And I guess maybe it has implications down the road in other books. I have no idea.
To some extent, yeah. I think it's also...
And I know the ending of the movie is kind of important, I guess, for this girl to just never get anything that makes her happy, which I don't see why that has to be the case.
Yeah.
You said he was a self-insert character. I kind of feel like this guy thinks he could bang the 23-year-old alt girl.
Yeah, I believe that's...
And
I believe that's definitely a big part of it.
Didn't care for it.
Yeah, even though she is the driving force between them getting together.
Yeah, I know, but it was written by the man who wanted to. Think about it, it's.
Oh yeah, I'm in no way invalidating what you're saying. It's actually really interesting that she is the one who, like, and their first sex scene takes place after Blomkvist gets shot at and missed, and he gets a cut, and she's like, "I need to calm you down," and then screws him.
Yeah, she acts like it's medical.
Yeah. And it's really, like, it's nothing to that point at all gives any indication that Daniel Craig is, like, attracted or interested in her in a sexual way. But he's just such a magnetic character. Just the ladies come flocking.
They can't stop themselves.
Yes.
I think a more mentor or fatherly relationship, or even just like equal coworker relationship, would have been more compelling than making them romantically involved.
I do not disagree. I think the argument against that, if I were to make one, would be that in these like both Daniel Craig and Lisbeth Salander, in both of their perceptions, getting off is just something everybody needs to do once in a while. Or at least that's what they tell themselves. So it's not like screwing is not necessarily a romantic thing.
I would buy that till the end, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, then the end changes it quite dramatically.
Yeah.
Or changes, I guess, what Lisbeth realizes or thinks about it. Anyway, we can't, there's no way to have or win this argument. Not that it's an argument.
Not even really an argument.
Yeah. Let's see. So, she comes and helps him do all this research.
I don't know how detailed we need to get into the actual things they find, because I couldn't really even follow all of it. They find pictures. They find pictures of people taking pictures, and then they find those people, and they see their pictures.
Yeah, which is honestly, a very classic detective, noir move.
Yeah, and I enjoyed I enjoyed watching all of it. It's done in a way that is compelling to watch.
And we find out, or we get the implication, or we get that Harriet had been investigating some things, and it turns out those things were murders that took place from like the 1940s to the 1960s, and they're spread all over fucking Sweden, and they're all horrible fucking weird
Biblical.
Leviticus biblical bullshit. And they were all murders of Jews, or at least women with Old Testament names. So she was investigating that. So Elizabeth goes back and like retracts everything and like tries to figure all this stuff out. But it doesn't make like, and it seems to come up with the answer that it was Harriet's father that was doing these murders, but he was dead before Harriet died. Like he, had fell in the water and drowned.
Yeah, that's mentioned very early in the movie.
And he was a drunk and a real piece of shit and pretty useless.
And a Nazi.
Yeah, also one of the Nazis. One of the numerous Nazis.
Yeah.
So it's confusing. But then, all right, let's just basically cut to the quote end.
Well,
except it's not the end.
I did want to point out I really enjoyed speaking of Nazis, the interview with Harold.
Yes,
the old guy who had all his Nazi shit on display, and he's like,
Herr Engvall,
like nobody comes to visit me. And Daniel Craig goes, maybe you should redecorate. And the guy goes, at least I put it all out there. I don't try to pretend I'm something I'm not. And,
I'm the most honest of them.
Yeah, and then he goes, of your family? He goes, of Sweden.
Yeah, which is like it's kind of a serious indictment.
Yeah,
and also not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in no place to make that judgment call, but I can see how an author writing that line, who's from Sweden, could.
Yeah. It's
it was powerful for a character that was on screen for a very short time.
Yeah, that was. I can't remember that actor's name, but he gave a
Herr Meyerberg.
Okay, he gave a banger performance in this.
It was a great little scene.
Yeah.
And there were lots of little scenes like that in the movie, which is what made me keep watching the movie.
Yeah,
some of it made me want to run away and cry.
Yeah, understandably. So anyway, we come to the conclusion, basically, that through a lot of research and looking at photos and stuff, that, oh shit, it turns out that for 50 years, Martin has been lying about when he got back, because he had been away at school and then got back to the island later that evening when the murder happened. Turns out he's been lying the whole time, and oh shit, he is the murderer.
This is confirmed when Daniel Craig goes to look through his house
and sneaks around very badly.
Very poorly. Loudest shoes on. Take your shoes off, dude.
And not even that. Shut the door after yourself. You don't want, you don't want to change the house unnecessarily, man.
And bring a knife. Don't take one out of the kitchen knife block. They're going to notice.
Yeah.
I would notice if one of my knives was missing instantaneously.
That's actually like that whole sequence when, okay, so he's sneaking around and he sees a bunch of suspicious shit because he's, at this point, he's like, I don't know, maybe Martin's the killer.
Yeah.
He's sneaking around and looking at shit, and there's a lot of implications going on. And then Martin gets home and Daniel Craig falls down the hill like a fucking dunce.
Yeah, it was weirdly funny in the midst of all this tense
it really
hide-and-seek
was
stuff. And he pops up like, hey, just out for a walk.
It was an honestly hilarious pratfall.
Yeah. Daniel Craig is great, by the way.
He really is. I mean, for a guy who could just coast on James Bond.
Yeah.
I mean, he's honestly, yeah.
Speaking of Knives Out.
Yeah. Yeah. What if he'd done this movie in the Knives Out voice?
I'd be on board.
Yeah. Just him with a bunch of Swedes.
Yeah.
Compels me. So then there's the sequence where Martin says, "Oh, Hendrik wanted me to ask you something. Come in and we'll have a drink." So he invites Blomqvist into the house. They sit in the kitchen and have a drink and talk. And there is this is a fucking great example of editing and direction in how you convey information and and what characters know and what characters suspect, because there are just incredible, like, it's these two characters sitting across from basically a big kitchen, sitting across from each other at basically a big kitchen island. And you see, they're having a pleasant conversation.
But
And
he has a knife in his pocket. And his hand's in that pocket.
Yeah. And that, well, it really seems like Martin might be the murderer here, even though he's been the most milquetoast guy on the planet up until this point. And then you like tiny insert shots of the knife block with one knife slot empty. And then a tiny insert shot of Blomqvist focusing on the gun. There's a rifle over against a wall in the corner. And it's a really just beautiful textbook case of how do you convey information, what characters know. You see Blomqvist notices the rifle, and then it cuts back to basically his POV looking at Martin, and Martin, you can Stellar Skateboard's eyes tighten up a tiny bit, because you see he realizes that in that glance Blomqvist saw the rifle, so he must suspect something, but he knows Blomqvist has the knife because the knife is not in the knife block that we saw a second ago.
Yeah.
It's just the cutting is incredible in that scene.
Yeah, it's a tense scene.
It really is.
And then it's ended when he just whips a gun out of a drawer in the kitchen.
He just pulls a pistol out of the fucking kitchen drawer, and he's like, why don't you come downstairs?
At that point, so as he's leading him down through these halls and using a key card to open secure doors, I was thinking I would take my chances with a bullet rather than go down through these locked doors. I'm not doing that. I'm getting shot.
But you're not an investigative reporter.
True, he had to know.
Yeah. So he takes him down to the basement and then gasses him, because he has a cool gas system in his basement.
He's got a hell of a torture chamber set up.
He really does. And by the way, all this time, Lisbeth's been off the island doing some research in the company archives, and eventually comes back to the cabin, figures out that, Blomqvist went up to Martin's.
Martin's been sneaking around the cabin.
Yeah, he's a sneaky guy.
She'd already kind of figured him out at that point. She knew.
Yeah, she knows men who hate women.
So when she saw him sneaking around the cabin and knew that Martin went up there, she knew something was wrong.
Yeah, so, and so Blomqvist passes out because of the gas, and Martin had a gas mask thing. He ends up tied up in a fucking, harness over his shoulders with a winch hanging from the fucking ceiling.
Yeah.
And a neck brace. And yanked into a tiled section of the basement with a fucking VHS camera, and it's the set design for this whole thing is deranged and kind of incredible, in that it's not some thing where it's like this. Even though Martin's house is, a very modernist, minimalist, Swedish architecture and furniture and stuff, this torture chamber is not some all stainless steel, custom designed surgical suite that you might kind of expect in a fancy kind of horror movie, which this has turned into. It
looks more like a stage.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's all stuff that kind of would make sense to have accumulated. He's using a VHS camera to film his murders because, 30 years ago, he got a VHS camera and it works great. I mean, he'll get a fucking DV camera eventually once this breaks, but why fuck with it? And he's got like a nice stereo that he clearly bought in 1981. Like it's not some modern high-tech thing. It's this is the stereo that he bought that he likes, and he puts on his favorite song, Orinoco Flow by Enya.
That is weird.
Apparently, that was on Daniel Craig's iPod, and he suggested it.
Okay. It felt very American Psycho.
I read a thing where I think it was Stellan Skarsgård that said something about basically, I view it as he needs to murder. He doesn't really like to murder, but he needs to murder. He really doesn't like the screams.
Okay.
So he wants high volume,
spa music.
Yeah, his favorite songs.
Also, another weird comedy insert. As he's hung up there, he says to Michael, like, "Why didn't you just leave? You should have just left." And Michael goes, "Can I?"
Yeah.
And like a lot of times in movies like this, people in high stress situations will be joking, and it feels like in the Avengers and
quippy.
Stuff, they do it.
Yeah.
It feels quippy and stupid, and but this one, this felt real. I might make that joke as I'm about to die.
Can I?
Is that an option?
Off.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I thought it was just weird and funny.
Yeah. And that's another thing. David Fincher is a very funny filmmaker, even though his movies often treat with horrible shit.
Yeah. So let's push this bitch down the line. He gets beat up a little bit and he's about to get tortured. But when Skarsgård unzips his pants and realizes, never had a man in here before.
I've never touched a man before, not since my father.
He does basically give away most of what happened, that his father would torture women. But then when Daniel Craig brings
and
up...
also him.
And him, yeah. When Daniel Craig brings up that you killed... What's her name? I can't remember. Harriet. Clearly, that's not the case. Michael or Martin is like, who? No, you don't know shit. You're an idiot. You're a terrible investigator. I'm going to kill you now.
Yeah.
And then,
did you find out where what happened to her? Yeah.
And then he gets golf clubbed brutally in the jaw.
It is. Yeah. It's one of those things where only occasionally do you see something in a movie where like a single punch or kick or something is just like, it's not in the middle of a fight scene or something, and you see it happen and it is visceral. Like watching this guy get his jaw shattered by a fucking by a fucking golf club swung by a 4'11" girl who weighs 75 pounds sopping wet. And you see his teeth flying, and it is like, oh yeah, I'm 100% certain that is exactly what that would look like.
Yeah, and then later, as he's driving away and it's showing shots of his face, like his jaw looks like it just got hit with a golf club.
Yeah, it's the prosthetics are actually pretty impressive.
Pretty good, yeah. But she saves him, she unties him, and then she asks permission. She says, "May I kill him?"
May I kill him now?
And Michael goes, "Yes." And then she fucking chases him like the goddamn Terminator.
Yeah, and then there's a motorcycle chase, and this is the point at which I put in my notes, absolutely fucking wild that there's literally 31 minutes of this movie left.
Yeah.
When the chase scene lasts 45 seconds.
It feels like the end, but it wasn't.
It's not. You get to what seems like the end of the movie, which is when this chase scene begins, and you're like, oh, okay, so we're going to have a big chase scene through Swedish countryside. No, it's literally 45 seconds long. And then there's another
it's still good though. It's still 10
minutes. Oh yeah, it is.
I mean, she's in Sweden in winter on a motorcycle. That's not a good time to be on a motorcycle.
Yeah, and he's in a Range Rover. Yeah. I mean,
he's got the advantage.
Yeah.
But he does have half his face hanging by a thread.
That's true. And he wrecks and blows up.
She's getting ready to finish the job with the pistol, but then the car blows up. And
so that's the end of the movie.
But it isn't.
Oh, wait. It isn't. So Blomqvist is getting better after his traumatic experience of having the shit beat out of him, etc. We find, Lisbeth has found in the investigation of the basement, there are 2 nude photos of Harriet from like 50 years ago. So they're obviously trophies. But Blomqvist says, I don't think he killed, like he clearly had no idea what happened. Like he wanted to know what I knew about Harriet.
Yeah.
This wasn't, because he admitted everything else.
Right. He was not hiding anything.
No. So, and Lisbeth's like, oh, okay, maybe, I don't know. And they're like, maybe Harriet is still alive, so let's pick up your hacker buddy and then go see Jolie Fisher, who popped up for 4 minutes in the movie in the first act, or second act, I guess, where
One of the
Blomqvist,
cousins or sisters or whatever.
Yeah, she's a cousin and now lives in London and hasn't seen the family for like 30 years.
Yeah.
So they're going to like put a cool trace on her phone and internet activity. And Michael's going to tell her that Martin has died. Sorry. So that way she'll let Harriet know, like she'll call or email or something.
Yeah.
So they do that, and
she goes online and goes shopping and then plays solitaire for 2 days straight.
Yeah.
She should have been playing Balatro. Let's be honest. Gotta get the Balatro plug in for the 3rd episode in a row.
I've now watched quite a bit of Balatro. So it turns out, oh my God, horror of horrors, shock. Anita, this cousin, is Harriet.
Dun, dun, wah. Not really that big of a twist. I mean, it was pretty obvious from the jump that Harriet wasn't actually dead.
Yeah, the movie does its very best. Like everybody in the movie assumes she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are familiar with the tropes of thrillers and mysteries, the fact that there is literally no body when there are tons of bodies spread throughout the rest of the historic period.
And the fact that like the killer kept sending me these pressed flowers and they look exactly the same. And you're like, probably wasn't the killer. But you'll suspend disbelief to enjoy the mystery.
Yeah. You got to build the mystery.
Yeah. I feel like in this podcast, we are building a mystery.
Building mystery and choosing so carefully.
Maybe that was 2 podcasts ago.
We are choosing our subjects so carefully.
That's so.
Yeah, we are. Anyway, he confronts Harriet, and
he has another house moment when he realizes that, and I can't remember what was the inciting incident or that made him realize that these people were the same person.
What was it?
I can't remember.
Did I make a note of that?
It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
So many of the details don't really matter.
It turns out that Anita snuck Harriet off of the island.
Died later.
Yeah. And then 20 years later, she and her husband died. And it was a whole thing about how Anita had a married name passport. So Harriet used her old
boring details.
It's not important. But anyway, she goes back to, she finally visits Henrik again and is like, sorry about those flowers. I thought I was doing a nice thing.
Yeah. Instead of traumatizing you once a year on your birthday for the last 40 years.
Yeah. And hugs and everybody's happy. And, Blomqvist gets all the dirt on Wennerstrom that
isn't really that great.
Henrik had promised him, and it turns out it's not actually worth anything because society's changed. So Wennerstrom 30 years ago embezzled some money from the Wagner Group.
And who cares?
And not only is the statute of limitations long past, it's not even going to do any damage to his, reputation. So he's been fucked over. I mean, like Blomkvist has been fucked over, and he looks like he's acting like these people have just screwed him to death. When I mean, he did get like a pretty good paycheck.
Yeah, he got paid pretty well.
Yeah,
And he had fun.
yeah, and he had
All
a
about
good
having
time.
fun.
And the friends he made along the
Friends
way,
and
the old Nazis, the young,
the slight gunshot woons,
yeah,
scars that'll look really cool.
The old Nazis, the hacker witch.
Yeah.
So then Lisbeth has an idea, and she borrows $50,000 from Blomkvist for a smart investment.
Yeah. And to his credit, he doesn't even ask. He says
Yeah.
he trusts her. He says, "Here you go."
Yeah,
Which is
an important bit.
It is important because
yeah,
nobody trusts or cares about her that much.
yeah. So her very smart and good investment is to buy a bunch of wigs and wardrobe and then go to Switzerland, where she, using her
I
lead
feel like
hacker
50 grand
skills-
was she probably could have done all this on 20 grand.
See, I do not know the conversion rate for kroner,
Oh yeah.
so I think that is not as much money as we think
Okay.
it is.
Gotcha.
Because there are amounts of money that pop up in this movie where I'm like, oh, that's clearly Swedish money. That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Because she needed like, I don't remember, $10,000 for a new laptop, and it's an Apple. I mean, which,
And for food.
yeah. Anyway, so she uses her lead hacker skills and also her social engineering skills, and Blomkvist had publicized the evidence he got about Vanger, and then Lisbeth did a little bit more research and got him some info on money laundering and stuff. So Wennerstrom kind of fled the country.
Illegal research.
Yeah. Fled the country, and he's living it up high on the hog in Spain, I think.
Yeah.
But he didn't really lose much. He's still got billions of dollars, kroner, I don't know, whatever, in the bank.
Euros.
Yeah. And it's also noted that he's laundering money for the Russian mob and whatever. So she goes to Switzerland and withdraws all that money.
Yeah.
And transfers it into her own accounts.
I guess. Yeah.
And it's very exciting. She's wearing wigs in fancy hotels and sunglasses. And then Wennerstrom is killed by the mob, whose money he was supposed to be protecting. So Blomkvist wins because he got killed by the mob.
Justice was done.
Yeah, justice is done. She pays Blomkvist back out of the 3 billion kroner that she got. And they have a nice little conversation. She does a little bit of a smile at one point, which it's the smallest smile in the world. But it also counts as massive character growth for her.
Yeah.
Because she's
never
smiled yet. And then we see kind of everything going back to normal. Michael's working at the magazine. Elizabeth buys a very fancy custom motorcycle jacket for him.
Real quick, when he meets her and she pays him back and she does that smile, she asks what he's doing later and if he wants to meet up.
Yeah.
And he, once again, Fincher telling us what's happening with glances. He glances up to his office where Robin Wright is and says, "Sorry, I'm busy later." So that he's banging Robin Wright again, even without it being...
She doesn't notice.
She doesn't notice, no.
Yeah. Because she is neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So she buys him a very fancy custom motorcycle jacket and writes him a letter, handwritten, which is pretty weird for a hacker witch to be doing. And then goes to give it to him and sees him happily walking along arm in arm with Robin Wright and throws it in the trash and drives off on her motorcycle. The end.
Yep. Because she can't have anything nice in her life.
No. Yeah. Anyway, good movie. Good movie.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Not the funnest movie, but a very good movie.
I mean, as like, what was it we were talking about recently? New Rose Hotel. It was not a movie. This
No.
definitely is a movie.
Yes, 100%.
All right.
This is both a movie and an incredibly skillfully constructed movie. Whether or not you will enjoy the content of the movie is a totally different question.
Yeah, that really remains to be seen and is up to individual viewers. Before we rate it, let's talk about, is it a cyberpunk movie?
Well, hacking does a lot in the movie, although, like, it very, very smartly completely sidesteps the visualizing of hacking.
I mean, it looks honestly more realistic than a lot of people who
decide
to show it looks. She's Googling a lot of shit.
Yeah, exactly. It completely sidesteps TV's idea of what hacking should look like to make people interested.
Yeah.
Like, there's no cool, like, I mean, as much as I love hackers, there's no cool swirling lines of code or fucking cybernetic dolphins.
Yeah.
You know, it's Googling shit and like looking at pictures and
social engineering and
yeah. And it's very realistic. And because it's all shot really well, you can tell the people are good at their jobs and they're doing their jobs.
She does have a mohawk at the beginning, so it also has punk too. So it's got cyber and it's got punk. You can't deny that.
I mean, there are only about maybe 3 minutes of film in which she is not the most punk thing ever committed to film.
Right.
Like, and that's when she's dressed up as a fancy lady in wigs.
Yeah. So the only time her eyebrows match her hair.
Yeah.
I think it's close enough to cover for us. I mean, obviously we're not going to delete this episode.
Fuck no. We'd have to record another one. Goddamn.
But I don't know. If I'd seen it before, maybe I would say maybe we shouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. And in my mind, it was more cyberpunk than it turned out to be. But I think that was, again, me strongly remembering the credits.
Yeah. It just felt more like a whodunit mystery.
Yeah.
To me than a cyberpunk movie.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you know, the fact that there's hacking is, you know, it's important plot stuff, but it's also relatively incidental. It could have been an asshole flipping through file catalogs.
Yeah.
You know. So, and I mean, there was plenty of that too.
There was plenty of that.
But that title sequence, you go, wow, this is super cyberpunk.
Yeah. Look at all this black ooze.
Yeah, black ooze and like, I don't know, looks like fucking wires and screaming and dragons and the song. It's got techno beats.
It does. And it's the Immigrant Song, classic cyberpunk tune.
Yeah.
Let's talk about rating it. What do you think the story of this deserves? I think pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like groundbreaking.
No, it's a really competently made adult fucking thriller. I mean, like, you know, the movie, like, at no point does it fall apart. Character motivations are like reasonable, and you know, it's honestly like it's like an 8 or something.
I was gonna say 8.5, but yeah.
I have nothing to complain about this story wise.
Okay. Influence. It's kind of new, but also like I feel like maybe not this movie, but the whole Girl with the Dragon Tattoo universe was kind of big at the time.
It really was. And I was thinking about this when I was watching the movie and thinking about it the other day. This is really like, it was right around the time that, like, kind of between when the books came out and when this movie came out, that true crime blew the fuck up and became the biggest goddamn thing in the world of entertainment out of nowhere.
I would lay that more at the feet of podcasting.
I think podcasting obviously has a lot to do. I mean, like a huge amount to do with it, specifically Serial.
Yeah.
But I really think like the way the themes in this movie and the series are developed really they really hang with me in terms of like analyses I've seen of why is true crime so popular, especially among women, and like, you know, all sorts of angles of it's because they see a worse version of what they experience, or, you know, so, and I really think that's part of it. Like, I think this came along and the books came along at exactly the right time for to not kick off, but be concurrent with true crime being a thing.
What would you give it number wise?
I would say, ooh, shit. Oh, that's tough. And how much do I give it just for Tim Miller having a directing career for doing the credits on this?
I think upper middle. I'm thinking 7.
Yeah, 7?
6.57.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely not influential. I mean,
Yeah.
people definitely watched this movie and went on and made other movies or wrote other books and were influenced by it. It's kind of hard to deny. It was too big at the time. Prescience. I'm giving it an NA because
it's not.
not a dystopian story.
No, and it's like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Style definitely has it. It's got a little bit of it and then a whole lot of none of it. So I guess I'm going to hit it with a 7 again.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, she gives so much. Rooney Mara. We never even actually said the actress's name, Rooney Mara. But
really, Jesus Christ, yeah, you're right. Yeah, she serves.
She serves looks. LEWKS.
Are you sure her name isn't Ranch Mara? Because she be fucking dressing.
I hate that you said that.
You love that.
So
yeah,
I'm gonna 7.5 it for Ranch Mara.
Yeah, I think actually I'll go 8 for Ranch Mara and also the title sequence.
Oh, the title sequence, yeah. Maybe
I think
8 is better, but I've already written it down.
That's worth a half point on its own. And yeah, Rooney Mara, beautiful young woman, very good actress. She is unearthly, insane looking in this movie,
and so good at being just a sullen street rat. Like,
yeah,
so many Shadowrun characters wish they could.
Yeah, and like just the fucking bleached eyebrows, and she clearly like took off a bunch of weight for this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
high metabolism. I can't put on weight.
Yes.
Overall, oh god, this one's hard. 1 to 5 hand raisers. How much did you enjoy watching the movie? I don't even know how to do this.
I am going to give this a 3.5. It would be higher, except for the fact that there is a lot of deeply unpleasant shit.
Yeah.
like the fact that it's that high indicates that it is a true triumph of filmmaking.
I'm gonna go 2.75.
Okay.
I'm docking it 3/4 of a point because they didn't have to kill that cat. That didn't add any fucking thing.
Yeah, that's true.
That was just spite. And I hate it when they do that.
Yeah, I mean, at least we didn't see the cat being killed.
Yeah. But it was pretty graphic.
Oh, yeah. It was it was no good. Also, this movie came out for the holiday season in 2011, and the tagline was the feel-bad hit of the season.
Properly taglined.
Yeah, I thought that was good. It's actually got a really good trailer as well as the credit sequence.
Yeah, I bet.
Like it's all cut to Immigrant Song and like fucking night vision shots of Elizabeth setting up the cameras and where she looks like a fucking alien.
Yeah, she does look like an alien. All right, we're closing the book on Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yes.
Because I'm really stupid, rented the wrong one on Amazon Prime and then had to spend more money. So this was a particularly expensive watch for me.
Yeah.
And there's no way I'm going to go watch the original now.
Mm-hmm.
That's just...
Some people really like the Swedish versions of the movies.
I assumed we were doing that one at first because, I don't know, it just seemed like the thing to do, but...
That makes sense. I mean...
But then we talked about it and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get the American version. And then I went and bought the Swedish version fucking anyway because I don't know how to work computers.
Yeah, you are not a hacker witch.
I am not a hacker witch. Anything else before we go? We got a very nice email from a person named Lisa, and I wanted to shout them out because it was cool, and they gave us some recommendos to check out.
Yeah. It was really it's nice to get feedback because it feels like we used to get a lot more feedback, partially just because of the way our show worked.
Yeah.
And also the way that social media has disintegrated over the past several years.
Yes, that's very much it. Like a lot of the people we used to talk to on Twitter aren't on Twitter anymore. And I think they are smart for not being on Twitter anymore.
Yeah, they are. Hey, I know Matt McHenry's out there living his fucking best life, and he has been off Twitter for a year now.
You need to get on Blue Sky. We had some good conversations there last week, and I tagged you, but you didn't ever pop up, so you must just forget that it exists. But
I do, and I guess it doesn't send me notifications.
I guess not, because I definitely tagged you. But yeah, there's some stuff happening on Blue Sky.
I do not recall the last time I opened that app.
But yeah, thank you, Lisa, for emailing us. Your recommendos have been added to the list, and the drinking game recommendo has also been added to the list.
Yes, good idea.
What drinking game, you might ask, Josh?
Don't worry about it.
There you go. So please email us at hightechlowlife@gmail.com if you would like to. That would be very cool of you.
It really would.
Or hit us up on Twitter, Johnny60seconds. Hit us up on Blue Sky at HighTechLowLife. We have a Patreon, and this week we have plans to record content for it. We're going to start banging out some Patreon content because we've been lax. Been busy boys.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/HighTechLowLife. And then that's about it, right?
Well, we need to tell them what they're going to be
doing
next week. Yeah.
Next week we got another weird one.
Yes. A movie that neither I nor Eric have ever seen.
No, it's on lists. That's the only reason we know it's Cyberpunk.
It's on lists, and it was specifically our potential guest specifically brought it up. So, all right.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't have any problematic shit in it.
I could not begin to guess.
It is the 1987 sci-fi action movie called Cherry 2000.
Not the 2020 movie called Cherry with Tom Holland, I think.
No.
Okay, you didn't see that. All right. No. So it's got Melanie Griffith.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen it. Never seen the trailer. This is the first time I have ever... Oh, holy shit, Lawrence Fishburne's in it. All right, cool.
A tongue-in-cheek sci-fi action pick which owes a considerable debt to the Mad Max movies. And we're hopefully going to have a guest if that all works out. If not, I'll edit this out.
And Brian James, who we've seen before and will see again.
Yep.
And Tim Thomerson, who was in Nemesis.
Ooh, I like that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's got 59% on Metacritic, 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, so you know we're going to have fun.
5.5 out of 10 on IMDb. So yeah, prepare for that.
All right. That does it. Have you procured a quote to send us out on?
May I kill him?
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing!
Everybody out there.
Hike the planet! Hike the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.
Good. Feel good.
Baseline face.
Okay. Pipes are cleared.
Okay.
All right. We good?
I think we're good.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the High